I couldn't help but smile when the HR message appeared on my screen. Senior supervisor. I had finally succeeded after working hard, staying up late, and being the one that everyone turned to when they needed help solving problems. I wasn't thinking about celebrating at first. It concerned how to inform my family without causing them to feel guilty about it again. My name is Lauren Evans, and depending on the day, I am either my family's personal servant or the glue that keeps them together. My mother's high-pitched voice broke through the wall before I could even catch my breath. Lauren! That noise is coming from the washing machine once more. I let out a sigh, shrugged, and dragged myself downstairs while minimizing my promotion email. The washing machine wasn't broken, spoiler alert. Like the dishwasher, coffee machine, and pretty much anything else in the house that required pressing more than 2 buttons, she hadn't bothered to learn how to use it correctly. She was standing with her arms crossed and appeared annoyed when I entered. Good to see you here. Could you also make Ryan's shirts while you're at it? Tomorrow, he has that crucial presentation. Ryan. My brother is 32 years old. Even as an adult, he still failed to do his own laundry. I tightened my jaw. I have work to do, Mom. She waved her hand dismissively. My dear, it will only take a minute. You are aware of how crucial this is to him. For Ryan, everything was crucial, or necessary for Natasha, my younger sister, or important to Dad's reputation at the country club. However, my belongings? They were merely annoyances at all times. After throwing Ryan's clothing into the machine and adjusting the settings once more, I fled back upstairs. Natasha sent 3 unseen SMS messages. Natasha, would you please proofread my college essay once more? Natasha, would you please? Lauren, Natasha? I had already gone over the same fucking essay twice this week. A call buzzed through my phone before I could respond. Kayla, the only person who really knew how imprisoned I was my best friend. Before I could even say hello, she continued, please tell me you got it. I grinned. I understand. She let out a cry. Young lady, why then do you sound like you were just kicked? I paused. I'm considering apartments. At last. Near the office, downtown, this lovely 1-bedroom apartment has a balcony. I was interrupted by a knock on my door. Lauren, Dad, I answered the phone. Yes? I need these contracts for tomorrow and the printer isn't working. I let out a sigh. Have you made sure there is no more paper? Please just come fix it. I'm not very good at these things, you know. Kayla let out a moan across the speaker. I heard that, girl. You must inform them today. She was correct. I knew precisely how they would respond, so I had been delaying it for weeks. But I couldn't wait any longer because the promotion official was here. I inhaled deeply before yelling down the corridor. Meeting with family. My heart was racing as we sat in the living room. Natasha was texting. Ryan, the only person who was really looking at me, raised an eyebrow. Mom was browsing through her phone, and Dad was half listening as he went over his golf schedule. I let out a breath. Today, I received a promotion. Mom didn't raise her head. That's lovely, my love. I took a swallow. To the senior manager. They were drawn to that. Dad nodded and replied, Oh, well done. I pushed myself to continue. And next month, I'm moving out. Quiet. The phones went down. 4 sets of eyeballs jerked in my direction. Relocating? Mom's voice faltered. But why would you want to do that? And who will? I made my hands clench because, Mom, I'm 29. I require my personal space. Dad laughed. He leaned closer and said, You have plenty of space here. Isn't money at stake here? We can talk about lowering your rent. I gave a sour laugh. Dad, it's not about the money. It has to do with living my own life. Ryan bent over. Sis, hurry up. We need you here, you know. Who is going to assist Mom in every way? Perhaps you could all learn to take care of yourselves. The words were harsher than I meant. Natasha gave an eye roll. Your selfishness is unbelievable. Self-centered? I gave a halting laugh. After all of my efforts on behalf of this family, their expressionless looks spoke volumes. I got up. I've made up my mind. After turning, I went upstairs and closed my door. My phone then buzzed, a notification on social media. I was tagged in a post by Natasha. I made the click. My stomach fell. Some people forget where they came from. Some people think they're too good for family. Guess blood isn't always thicker than water? Hashtag disappointed, hashtag family betrayal. What on earth? Mom had told about it. Dad had said something. Ryan, the person I believed would truly comprehend, had also included his own passive-aggressive reaction. I began to go through the comments. Wow. Can't believe she'd do this to her own family. Some people just don't appreciate what they have. What kind of daughter abandons her parents? Every remark further twisted the knife. Once more, my phone buzzed Kayla. I was unable to respond. I was too preoccupied with glaring at the TV. Did they wish to discuss betrayal? Concerning disappointment? Recollections of that night 6 years ago flooded back as my cursor lingered over the remark box. The night I was held accountable for Ryan's error. The night that made all the difference. I had kept it a secret for years. Perhaps it was time they experienced what true treachery was like. The buzzing on my phone continued. Kayla had called 6 times, but at that moment, I was unable to speak with anyone. I was too preoccupied with reading Natasha's post comments, each of which was more venomous than the last. Wow. Can't believe she'd do this to her own family. Some people just don't appreciate what they have. What kind of daughter abandons her parents? Leaving them behind? For them, I sacrificed 6 years of my life. I gave up my future and my reputation. I accepted responsibility for something that wasn't my fault. And now I was being portrayed as the bad guy by the same folks I defended? The door to the bedroom squeaked open. Ryan appeared apprehensive as he stood there, as if that would resolve any issue. Hey, may we speak? I scrolled through the many comments on my laptop as I turned the screen in his direction. How about? Mom's post regarding her daughter's lack of gratitude? Perhaps your statement that I'm throwing away years of family loyalty instead? He rubbed his hands together while perched on the side of my bed. Look, you are aware of their behavior. They're simply astonished. Startled? I laughed resentfully. That their personal assistant at last desires a life of her own is shocking to them. Ryan flinched. That is unfair. I opened my phone's family calendar. Unfair? I repaired Dad's presentation, planned Mom's charity event, transported Natasha to 3 separate college interviews, and washed your laundry twice in the past week alone. When was the last time you did anything for this family other than take Ryan? His face went white. You are aware of my alteration. I've changed since then. No, I answered in a chilly tone. You're worse. You were truthful about who you were, at least then. Once more, my phone buzzed Kayla. I put it on speaker and answered this time. What the devil is going on, girl? The room was filled with Kayla's voice. On social media, your family is going all nuclear. I continued to watch Ryan. What's going on is that they're displaying their true selves. Kayla laughed. So, what will you do? Take it and sit there. I didn't respond, since I was already aware of my course of action. Ryan, do you recall that evening from 6 years ago? With a stern voice, I said. Ryan sprung up so quickly that he almost toppled my lamp. Don't, Lauren. Through the speaker, Kayla's voice crackled. What night? Wait, what is he discussing? With a look of terror on his face, Ryan combed through his hair. Nothing, he murmured rapidly. Can we discuss this in private, Lauren? After hanging up with Kayla, I got up and crossed my arms. Why? Concerned about projecting a flawless image? The golden boy who has changed and is impervious to wrongdoing? Ryan tightened his jaw. I understand that you're upset. However, avoid making a mistake. My laptop made a noise. One more alert. Mom had posted something else. A mother's heart breaks when her children choose selfishness over family. Praying for my daughter. Before I could type, Ryan reached out and grabbed my wrist. Please, Lauren, I beseech you. I withdrew my hand. Leave. We were interrupted by a knock on the door. With her phone in hand, Natasha stormed in. You are the reason Mom is crying. Are you content now? I returned my attention to my laptop. Oh, I'm going to be. What is the intended meaning of that? Natasha's tone became piercing. She glanced between Ryan and me. What's happening? Ryan sounded desperate. Nothing. Lauren is simply upset. Angry? I shook my head and laughed. Want to watch someone get upset? Hold off until everyone is aware of what actually transpired that evening. Natasha's forehead wrinkled. What night? Wait. What are the two of you discussing? Another text buzzed across my phone. Kayla, before you do anything, give it some thought. Believe me. I spent a lot of time looking at her message. I then turned to face Ryan. His face begged. Natasha's perplexity. My screen continues to be inundated with notifications. My throat ached from the secret I had kept hidden for 6 years, pleading to be released. I balled my fists up. Leave. Ryan paused. Please, Lauren, you too. Right now. I opened my laptop once again once they had gone. I started typing with trembling hands. Funny how some people can reinvent themselves when others carry their secrets. Maybe it's time for some truth. Before I could decide otherwise, I pushed post. The inquiries began to come in within minutes. Old high school pals, neighbors, dad's golf buddies too. Everyone was curious about my meaning. Ryan made 3 calls. I paid him no attention. Mom's texts were more and more frantic. I also disregarded those. Dad forced Natasha to stop beating on my door. Kayla then texted me once more at midnight. Whatever happened 6 years ago, Kayla, is retaliation worth ruining your family for? I spent a lot of time looking at her message. Was it worthwhile? They had previously demonstrated their willingness to humiliate me in public for my desire for independence. Why don't I do the same for you? Another notice appeared on my phone. Ryan had replied on social media. Some secrets protect more than just one person. Please remember that, sis. Family first, I sneered. He wants to discuss family first now? With my fingers lingering over the keyboard, I opened my laptop once more. I could wrap this up tonight. I could explain what had happened to everyone. The actual Ryan story. The truth about that evening. The cursor gave an accusing blink. Silence crushed at my chest for 6 years. However, the recollection of that evening remained vivid. My phone rang. Kayla, I responded this time. She said, I'm coming over before you do anything crazy. I scowled. It's midnight, Kayla. Exactly. At midnight, you are going to bomb your whole family. You require intervention. We shared a pint of ice cream just as we did in college, on the floor of my bedroom 20 minutes later. I could hear Ryan pacing in his room next door, but the rest of the house had become silent. She licked her spoon, Kayla. Tell me about the events of 6 years ago. I inhaled deeply. I told her everything after that. Kayla dropped her spoon to the ground with a crash. Wait, what? I took a deep breath. The memory clawed its way back as I stared at the wall, and my fingers became tighter on the ice cream carton. The break-in at the community center? The one in the headlines? I muttered. Kayla gave a slow nod. Yes, I do recall. Someone damaged their van and stole a lot of equipment, but the police were never able to identify the culprit. I laughed resentfully. They were not required to, since I came clean. Kayla's eyes grew wide. Lauren, with the burden of 6 years of silence crushing down on my chest, I took a trembling breath. Kayla, it wasn't me. Ryan was the one. It was 6 years ago. I heard the beating on my window after midnight. Until I heard the second knock, which seemed more urgent this time, I assumed I was dreaming. With my heart pounding, I sat up. What the devil? Then his voice came to me. Please, Lauren, get out! Ryan. I hurried to the window after shoving off the blankets. I felt nauseous as I raised the blinds. Outside, Ryan was slashed and bruised. His hands were shaking and his face was white. I pulled the window open. What took place? Breathless, he staggered in. I made a mistake. I just managed to grab him before he fell to the ground. His shirt was torn and had blood and dirt stains on it. With a gasp, I grabbed Ryan's shoulders. Tell me what transpired and where you've been. He had crazy eyes and was panting. I took the van. I went cold. Which van? He pressed his hands into my arms. Lauren, the community center's vehicle? I just wanted to drive since I was high and not thinking. I gasped. You took it? His eyes were hazy as he nodded frantically. Crashing it wasn't my intention. I promise. However, Tommy then dashed and wait. Did Tommy accompany you? Ryan winced. Yes, but when the police arrived, he left. And I was unable to remain. Lauren, I ran. I simply ran. I had a constricted chest. The intrusion, the equipment that was stolen, the van was destroyed. It had been done by Ryan, and here he was now. Tell me to repair it, please, he said. They're going to realize it was me. My life will end if I am arrested. My future, my scholarship, my parents, I gazed at him. He was to blame for this. He had acted carelessly, foolishly, and selfishly. Nevertheless, He would never be forgiven by his parents. It would ruin his whole future. I couldn't destroy my future. I had always been the troublemaker, the one who acted out and needed guidance. One foot in the flames was already mine. Another step wouldn't make a difference. Ryan took hold of my hands. Please, Lauren. I shut my eyes. And then I took the decision that would ruin me. I got to my feet. Go wash yourself. Get rid of your clothing. I'll take care of it. Ryan blinked. What? I'll take care of it, I said. I entered the police station early the following morning. My mother's voice from the previous evening was still audible to me. That poor community center. Who would do something like that? What a shame. That place helps so many kids. I was on the verge of turning around. Nearly. But I had a glimpse of Ryan's face. His eyes begged. I approached the front desk. The cop raised his head. May I assist you? My stomach grew constricted. I succeeded. He scowled. Pardon me? I took a swallow. The intrusion. The van. I was the one. Suddenly, my destiny was decided. Today, Kayla's mouth was agape as she gazed at me. Lauren. With a shaky exhale, I rubbed my palms across my face. I performed community service for months. Got caught up in a record. Unable to submit scholarship applications. I was unable to defend myself when others began chatting about how trouble I was. Kayla had a pallid face. Ryan simply let you? I laughed resentfully. He didn't need to take any action. It was evident that Mom and Dad didn't want to ruin his future. How about yours? I gave a shrug. They showed no concern. Kayla remained quiet for a while. Holy shit, she muttered. Yes, she combed her hair with her hand. So what comes next? Are you going to reveal him? Once more, I opened my laptop. I kept my hands over the keyboard. I could kill him. Just one post, just one fact, and everything in Ryan's life would crumble, similar to how mine did. Kayla kept a close eye on me. Lauren, I tightened my jaw. He allowed them to torment me. I understand. I gazed at the display. I trembled. My phone then buzzed. Mom had made another post. Sometimes, the hardest thing is watching your children make mistakes, praying for guidance. I lost my temper. I accessed my social media accounts. Lauren, it's funny how certain individuals can change who they are when others keep their secrets. Perhaps some truth is in order. I clicked post. Kayla's eyes grew wide. Lauren, it's too late. Notifications blew up. Dozens, hundreds. People were DMing me and leaving comments. Everyone was curious about my meaning. Then Ryan replied on social media. Some secrets protect more than just one person. Please remember that, sis. Family first, I sneered. He wanted to discuss family now? I looked across at Kayla. I must speak with Ryan, right now. She got up. Are you okay with my staying? I gave a head shake. It's between him and me. I strode down the hallway as she departed. I didn't knock. I simply pushed open his door. Pale and holding his phone tightly, Ryan sat on his bed. He raised his head. Lauren, I folded my arms. Are you going to be honest? Or am I? Ryan took a deep breath. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him. Excellent. Because 6 years ago, he was going to experience exactly what I did, and I wasn't tidying up his mess this time. Ryan sat there, his knuckles whitened from holding his phone so tightly. He appeared to be a man witnessing the burning of his world in real time. Excellent. Because I had spent 6 years standing in the same fire. Lauren, he whispered in a strained voice. This is not necessary for you to do. I chuckled. Oh, so you're interested in what I do now? He tightened his jaw. I'm not the only one. If this is revealed, it will also ruin Mom and Dad. I moved ahead slowly. Mom and Dad? I muttered as I felt an unsightly twist in my chest. Are you really including them in this? With a deep exhale, Ryan combed through his hair. All right, I realize I was a coward. I admit that I allowed you to be blamed. However, you must comprehend you get it? I raised my voice. Know what, precisely? That you were too self-centered, to be honest? That you got to play reformed golden boy while I lost everything? He winced. You weren't asked to do that for me. I gave a hard laugh. Oh, I know, believe me. Your parents did all the begging for you. Quiet. I gazed at him. He gazed down at the ground. Coward. As usual. My phone rang. One more alert. The post was catching on quickly. Questions were being asked. I looked at Ryan. His respiration was shallow and his face was pallid. He was afraid. I ought to have been content, validated. Rather, I felt a pain in my chest. Sincerely, I didn't want Ryan to be the only one who suffered. I wanted him to get it, to at last realize the price I had paid. I forced my fists to unclench as I inhaled deeply. Ryan, you only have one chance. He jerked his head up. You just have one chance to inform them. Accept responsibility for your actions. His face contorted. What if I don't? I gave a shrug. Then I will. His hands trembled. I walked over to the door. You have until tomorrow. After that, I departed. I awoke the following morning to the sound of shouting. I hurried downstairs after putting on a sweatshirt. Mom stood in the living room, her eyes red-rimmed with anger, her phone clenched in her fist. Dad's jaw was clenched so tightly that I felt his teeth could break as he paced, and Ryan had his head in his hands while seated on the couch. He informed them. The air escaped my lungs. He did tell them. When Mom noticed me, she turned. Lauren, are you aware of what you have done? I crossed my arms. It depends. Are we referring to the fact that I eventually ceased shielding Ryan? Or the secret I held for 6 years? Dad had a crimson face. This family is being torn apart by you, I sneered. No, Father. At last, I'm speaking the truth. Significant difference. Ryan's face was hollow when he raised his head. I told them everything. I noticed it for the first time in years. Guilt. Genuine, unadulterated guilt. However, it was far too late. Mom's hands trembled. Are you aware of the damage this will cause to our reputation? It was there. No, I apologize. No, we ought to have prevented this from beginning. Only our standing. I laughed, gasping for air. Do you not understand? You only worry about your reputation, and I lost my future for this family. Dad's hands were thrown up. We took the necessary action. Ryan needed to safeguard his future. You had the strength to bear it. My chest hurt, able to manage it. They saw me that way. Not as their daughter, not as someone deserving of defense, just someone who could take responsibility for their transgressions. My throat constricted. I wasn't powerful, I said. I was just by myself. They were silent for the first time, and that might have been the worst thing of all. That evening, Ryan did not attend dinner. He was sitting on the steps of the back porch, looking out at the dark yard when I spotted him. After hesitating, I took a seat next to him. We sat for a long time in quiet. Then he said something. I never expressed gratitude. I blinked. For what purpose? His voice broke. For keeping me alive. Startled, I turned to face him. His breath came out shakily. I'm not sure where I would be if you hadn't taken the fall for me. Most likely in prison. Or worse. He held his knees in his hands. What transpired was for the best. I persuaded myself that you would be all right, that your parents would check on you. But they didn't, did they? I remained silent, as we were both aware of the solution. Ryan wiped his face with his hand. I tried to fix myself for a long time, to improve oneself. However, I never once gave what it did to you any thought. I took a swallow. No, you didn't. With hazy eyes, he nodded. I leaned my elbows on my knees and groaned. Now what? He remained silent for a while. Then he declared, I'm leaving. Startled, I turned to face him. His jaw tensed as he said, Mom and Dad. They need to learn to stand on their own, and I must cease allowing them to conceal themselves behind me. Slowly, I nodded. That was unexpected. However, for the first time, it seemed as though Ryan might actually mean it. I let out a breath. Me too. Ryan scowled. Are you really going to leave? I grinned. Indeed. And nothing is stopping me this time. I signed my apartment's lease the following day. Mom wouldn't assist me with packing. Dad didn't talk to me very often. Natasha, well, her eyes were silent and calculating as she studied everything. What about Ryan? In fact, Ryan was doing it. He wasn't fleeing for the first time in his life. And perhaps I wasn't either. My phone buzzed the night before I left. Ryan texted. Ryan, tomorrow. I'm going to be honest with the children at the community center. I have a right to tell them. My heart twisted as I gazed at the message. I had thrown myself onto the fire 6 years prior in order to save Ryan's life. For the first time now, at last he found himself standing in it. My response was typed out. Lauren, all right. Time is of the essence. Then, for the first time in years, I went to sleep without feeling like I was waiting for a battle, and I switched off my phone. I would wake up in my own house tomorrow. I was free for the first time in my life. I had only lost 6 years as a result. The house was quiet the morning I left, not in a calm manner. In a funeral fashion, Mom remained in her chamber. Natasha hardly gave me a glance. Pretending I wasn't leaving with my life in tow, Dad sipped his coffee at the kitchen table. Ryan was the only one who offered assistance. Without a word, he packed boxes and carried them out to my car one by one. Perhaps he saw it as an atonement of some kind. Perhaps it was. I turned back toward the house, where I had given up 6 years of my life after the last box was in. And I had no feelings. Not depressed. I have no regrets. Just a weight that is at last being lifted off my shoulders. Ryan nodded toward the car while wiping his hands on his slacks. Are you certain about this? I exhaled. Indeed. I have never been more. He smiled at me sadly. Then leave. Also, avoid looking behind. I paid attention to him for once. Even though my new flat was little, it was mine. I made the room my own by unloading all day long. With her feet up on my couch as if she had always been there, Kayla arrived with wine and food. So, how does it feel? She asked, opening the bottle. I looked about at my partially unpacked boxes, the late afternoon sunlight coming in through the windows, and my mother's unread texts. I grinned. Like the first time you breathe? Her glass clinked against mine. It's about damn time. A few days later, Ryan fulfilled his pledge. He was honest with the children at the community center. He informed them of the crash, the break-in, and the van, about how, in order to start over, he had let his sister take the blame. In his own words, he said, it belonged to him. Additionally, he didn't ask me to carry it for him for the first time. I nearly didn't respond to his text later that evening. Then curiosity prevailed. Ryan, I wasn't hated by them. Ryan, in fact, they comprehended. I took a long look at the message before answering. Lauren, all right. When you stop lying to yourself, that is what occurs. For once, it was acceptable that he never texted back, because I didn't have to bear the weight of his silence for the first time. A month went by. I adapted to my new freedom and my new existence. Then, one evening, Natasha texted me. I opened it with a frown. Natasha, I'm changing my school. I blinked. Like our parents, Natasha had been adamant about attending a private university. Lauren, are you serious? Natasha, I agree, state school, less expensive. I can cover the cost myself. I leaned back and gazed at the television. Lauren, why? It took her a minute to respond. Because I don't want to be like them, Natasha said. It wasn't until I let out a breath that I realized I was holding it. Perhaps Ryan wasn't the only one who was at last learning. After 2 months, Mom finally got in touch. Not while feeling guilty. Not in a dramatic way. But with an invitation to dinner. Out of impulse, I nearly erased the note. But I had a gut feeling that I should say yes. When I entered the house, something changed. Not in a physical sense. However, the energy had changed. Rather than yelling commands, Mom was really cooking. The table was being laid by Dad. Sitting in the living room, Ryan and Natasha were giggling at something on television. And for once, no one anticipated that I would make any repairs. When Mom noticed me, she wiped her hands on a towel and said, Lauren. I gave a nod. Mom. She looked at my dad and paused. Then it's me again. We wanted to apologize. I folded my arms. For what precisely? She had a bobby throat. For everything. For forcing you to carry more than is necessary. She let out a harsh sigh. Because I didn't see you. Dad cleared his throat. We're working to improve. I looked at them for a while. I wasn't naive. I understood that years of harm couldn't be undone by a single meal. Perhaps it didn't have to, though. Perhaps this was sufficient. For the time being, I took a chair out. All right, let's see if you two can cook. Ryan gave a snort. That's dubious, Natasha grinned. I wait 10 minutes before Dad places his takeout order. Additionally, for the first time in a very long time, I chuckled. I sat on the back patio after dinner that evening. I was joined by Ryan, who was drinking beer. The silence between us was comforting. He then gave me a quick look. Do you regret it then? I let out a breath. What? Preserving my secret. I gave that some serious thinking. I shook my head after that. No, he arched an eyebrow. I grinned. Because I can now live my own truth at last. Ryan laughed. You took too long. I gave him a shoulder rub. You took longer. With the burden of 6 years of quiet suddenly easing, we sat there and watched the sky. I no longer served as the family's fixer. I wasn't the lamb they sacrificed. Lauren was all I was, and that was sufficient for the first time in my life.